Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. It's Kelly Barrett here at Etcetera right here on Jess TV. I am super excited today. I have Steve Smith, aka Red Green, on the line that's coming to hang with us today. Hey Steve.
How you doing, Kelly?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to have you here. There's that voice. I was just saying, there's that voice
Yeah, I get recognized in stores just from my voice.
just from your voice.
Yeah.
And so do you throw an ism at them? A
And
red
is
green
it?
ism at them?
Well, they throw them at me. I mean, I
I
don't have
bet.
any. I don't have any casual fans. Like they're either dyed in the wool or they don't know who I am. Like I say to
They're
people, I say the red green show is kind of like the flu. Not everybody gets it, you know.
But the people that get it, they're diehard fans. I have so many people that that we've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks that are just, when's Red Green coming on? When's Steve? And I was thinking today, do I call him Steve Smith or do I call him Red Green? But
Well, it's a blurry line, Kelly. I created the character, and I've been the head writer for the whole time. So, there's a lot of all of red green is in me, but there's parts of me that are not in red green. But
that was going to be one of my questions. How much Red Green is in Steve Smith and vice versa?
well, all of red green is in Steve Smith. There's no doubt about that, and my wife would try to deny that, but it's not true. Uh, but then Steve Smith is there's a business side, and I've got two sons, and I don't live at Possum Lodge and stuff, but I do like Red's attitude. I think it's important to have a sense of self-sufficiency. I kind of admire that.
Handsome and handy, absolutely. You know what I love about Red, we have so much to talk about today, and I really, really want to touch on your current project that you've had since June of this year, which is the Possum Lodge podcast. But of course, we need to talk about Red Green, and I feel like we can't do any of that without first going back to Smith and Smith.
Right.
And what an experience that must have been, and a lot of work, because maybe what some people don't know, Steve, is that you wrote the skits, you sang the songs, you and your lovely wife Marag did, you did everything on that show. How was that experience?
Well, it was great. We didn't realize we were working that hard at the time. We just saw it as an opportunity that would never have happened probably anywhere else in the world. So we just did what was necessary. It was a lot of work. I wrote all the music as well as all the.
I know, it's
I know
insane.
it was a ton, but what a great opportunity. And part of it. This is going to sound a little cynical. It's not, but part of the rules in Canada are they have to do a certain amount of Canadian TV, which they kind of resent a bit because it's like a cost of doing business. So the upside of that is, yeah, okay, you don't get a lot of money to work with, but they don't really bother you. You're kind of, if you're a decent person, they kind of give you a free hand, and that was fantastic for me.
That would be, as a, from a creative standpoint of view, I think I would rather have less restrictions and be just kind of given, free reign. And I was watching some episodes a couple of weeks ago, and the one thing that I love about that show to this day, and I'm sure people will agree with me, is, the variety show was kind of new back then, but there's something really comforting about watching that show. And I mean, you watch them on YouTube, and I think it just takes me back to a simpler time. The humor was clean, it was funny, and I used to watch it with my whole family would watch it. And I remember just being, because I wanted to get into the business, I wanted to sing, and I remember watching it, and I would say to my mom, "Are they really married?" And stupidity of youth, right? Are they really married? And I
Yeah.
just thought it was the coolest thing ever to just watch. You never knew what was going to come out. And one of my favorite ones, and I rewatched it last week, and it's the one about, I think he's the Padre, and he's giving the big speech about how all the good people go to the States, and how basically the people that don't make it there are the ones that don't have the intelligence or the wherewithal to get out and head off to the States. And it got me thinking, because it's true, when people get to a certain level of success, they tend to head off to the States. And
Yeah.
Steve, you that level of success, and yet you stayed in Canada, you stayed Canadian, which I love. And can you expand on that?
Well, the only people that wanted me to go to the States were Canadians.
What?
I am. Here's what I have in common with Red Green. I am fiercely independent, and the idea of going down there and having someone else tell me, what was funny or what was appropriate, it just didn't sit well with me. I'd rather do what I did and see if I could sell it in the States, which we ultimately ended up doing. It was,
Right.
the show was never a huge success, and it was really successful. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't. It's not going to be on NBC or anything. We were on about 120 PBS stations, and it was a very successful career and all that stuff. But it was never mainstream. I don't think I'm necessarily a mainstream guy, and also I have a problem with doing what somebody else thinks is correct, because here's what happens: I do what they want, and it fails. I don't learn anything. If I do what I want, and it fails, I'll never do that again. I learned a lesson.
Note to self, don't do that again.
Right.
And then also in 1985, you did Me and Max on the Comedy Mill.
Yeah, we did Me and Max as our foray into sitcom, but we didn't have any more budget, so we couldn't afford any people. So we abused our children and made them part of the
David
cast.
and Max were put to work.
Absolutely, and they're still in the production business. Max has a video production company, and of course Dave's doing the podcast with me.
Right. So they kind of followed a little bit in that same kind of genre, same footsteps as you. And something else I want to touch on here while we're talking about the early years. I have it from a good source that we have something in common, and that is that we both spent years on the road, traveling around Canada in a band.
Oh, sure.
That's something actually your son Dave told me about that, and that's something I did not know about you.
Yeah, I started in music. In the late 60s, we lived in a small town called Streetsville, and they opened up a coffee shop. That was a big deal back in the 60s. So a bunch of my friends and I got together and made like a new Christy Minstrels kind of a group, and we'd perform there Friday night from 9 till 3, Saturday night from 9 till 2, Sunday night from 9 till 12. We get $125 to spread amongst the 6 of us for the whole week.
That sounds familiar, Steve.
I'm sure. But back in those days, there was lots of work. There were nightclubs and colleges, and there was a lot to do. We even ended up going into the States with once we morphed into a rock band, and we had a pretty good career from there. But it's funny, but that when that thing ended, we had a very important guy in showbiz, the entertainment business, come out to see us, and we were performing in. Have I got time for this?
Absolutely, we have all the time in the world, Steve.
Okay, we were performing at Cornell University, which is in Ithaca, New York, and this guy, he was the manager of Deep Purple. Remember that band?
Absolutely, 100%, yes.
Yeah, so he came out to see us, and usually when somebody important comes to see you, you just end up, it's your worst night ever. You know that feeling. But anyway,
absolutely,
this one, we nailed it, and I think we had 3 or 4 encores, and I just couldn't wait to meet this guy. Now, what we were doing was we were basically a glorified cover band. We did other people's material, but we would add a kind of a show to it, and blah blah blah. Anyway, what the guy said, I said, well, what do you think? What did you think of that? And he said, well, that was interesting. I said, what do you mean interesting? He said, well, you did the Beach Boys, you did Mamas and Papas, you did the Four Seasons. He says, I know all those guys. They do what they do better than you do what they do. What do you do? And it was
ouch.
Yeah, no, it was so good because it hit me right in the middle of the forehead with hey, this is a creative business. If you're going to try to make a living from it, you better be bringing something new to it. And at that moment, that was the night that in my mind, I either had to change the band into writing our own material, or whatever I was going to do in the future, I was going to create it. And it was a big turning point.
And so did you go on then to, because we were a cover band too. And I know what that's like, eating hot dogs all week to just work. But so I guess, in retrospect, what a blessing in disguise that was, that he had the wherewithal to kind of be straightforward with you and that you took that to heart. And so then did you go on to do original songs and then tour? Well,
out of that came Smith and Smith. I mean, that's exactly what happened. Oh. The band was not comfortable changing because everybody was making a good living. We never had a financial problem from day one, and they just didn't want to take the heat of starting over. So it was easier for us we did the Canadian thing. Instead of firing everybody, we quit.
I love it. And so was Moray.
Sorry, I was going to say everything that happened after that was based on that. It was 2 things happened. One was he said that, he was honest, and he said that to me. And the other thing was, it resonated with me. It wasn't like, I didn't dismiss that. It was like, you know what? That's right. He's right. And I'm going to find some way of being creative and also see if I can make a living.
Good for you. And, there's something to be said about being teachable, or, like being open to, other opinions aside from yourself. And then Smith and Smith came in. I had this one question I had to ask you, because I know you started writing early on, and you were writing for the yearbook, and you were writing captions, I guess.
Yeah.
And so this has been in your blood from early on. And I'm wondering, were you one of these people that just knew you were destined to be in the entertainment industry, like, from a really, really young age?
I really didn't. It's funny that I used to ride to school on a bus, and the guy beside me, his name was Bob Sager, and he said, I'm talking grade 6, and he said to me, someday I'm going to be watching you on television. So now you fast forward, gosh, I don't know, 30 years, and I'm reading in the Toronto Star that there's a heart surgeon in Toronto who just did some procedure, and his name is Robert Sager. And I'm thinking, that's such an odd name. So I phoned him, and I said, are you the same guy that told me you're going to see me on? He said, yeah, I've been watching you. I told you I was right, so. But
that must have blew his mind. That must have blew his mind when you called him.
Yeah. It blew my mind when I saw his name in the paper. He did fine too. But anyway, I've always been funny. I mean, people think they're funny, but I mean, I've always been able to make people laugh. When I was 4 years old, I could make my family laugh. I stayed out of trouble by making my family laugh. I'd come home from school 3 hours late, and everybody's really ticked. And I'd walk in with a bag of peanuts, and I wouldn't look at them. I'd be looking around the floor, and I'd say, anybody see any squirrels in here? And they how can they be mad, So, yeah.
From 4 years of age, yeah, you were definitely destined to do this. That's for sure. Wow, so much to talk about. Before we get to the podcast, so I have a question to ask you, and I just want to mention that 2006. What an honor this must have been. You were awarded the member of the Order of Canada.
Yeah, unbelievable. I know. When I found out, I thought it meant they were giving everyone one.
No red, just you.
That was an incredible honor, and I flew my mother up to Ottawa. She got to meet the Governor General, and it was pretty cool.
Oh, it must have been surreal, and it's a testament to the longevity that you've had. From the band to Smith and Smith and Red, Green, and now the podcast. And how exciting, for you that you've been able to just diversify and stay so relevant, because your fans, they're with you this whole time. They just, they've just stuck by you, and now you have the podcast, the Possum Lodge podcast. Do you want to tell us a bit about that, Steve?
Yeah, sure. I mean, before I get to that, the whole progression, when I think back about it, is it's what you choose to do and how you choose to do it is kind of a double-edged sword. I didn't choose to do what everybody else was doing. I sort of marched to my own beat and everything. The downside of that is, like I said earlier, you kind of miss the mainstream because you're not looking at surveys to see what's popular. You're doing what you think is kind of fun to do. But the upside of it is, if you resonate with people, if they enjoy what you're doing, there's not a lot of other places they can find it. I mean, I think one of the reasons that I have a loyal following is most people doing comedy are either obscene or angry or both, and I'm neither. So in many ways I'm irrelevant. If you put me in a comedy club, I would stink. They'd boo me right off the stage because I don't want to do what they want to hear. So.
Right.
And then, like I say, it's a double-edged sword. Now the podcast.
But that's part of your charm. I think that's really, sorry to interrupt you. I think that's part of your charm, is that, this alter ego of Red Green, like everybody knows a Red Green or two. I personally know a few Red Greens, and he's so authentic. And the fact that, you stayed true to that character and you stayed with your fan base as far as Red Green goes, people really respond to that. I think, and I totally understand what you're saying. It's, I had a comedian on a couple of weeks ago, Leland Klassen, and he's a totally clean comedian. And I really think that's an art form. I think it's the easy way to go, to get out there and go for the crudest, lowest level of humor, but to keep it as, where the whole family can watch the show. that's an art form.
Well, thanks. That's a nice way to put it. But when I see a comedian who's doing that kind of material and it's anger and obscenities, and sometimes, don't get me wrong, it's very funny. But after it's over, there's this aftertaste where I just like he's diminished my feeling of myself, not just him. This is like I feel worse about myself because I laughed at that. So anyway, I didn't want to have that aftertaste of it. Anyway, I have no choice. I just, you got to be true to yourself. And when the show went to CBC, and it was like season 7 before I got it there. And the way we got to the CBC, it wasn't necessarily that the CBC wanted the show. They wanted the audience. We'd managed to build an audience without being on a national network. And they wanted to. I remember one night we had a live audience, and the guy asked a question. He said to me, "How did you ever sell this show to a broadcaster?" I said, "I didn't. I sold you to an advertiser."
Great answer. Great answer, Steve.
So now getting around to the podcast, I am so old, Kelly, that I can remember lying in my bunk bed and listening to my crystal radio that I had made, and all the shows. Made? Yeah. Oh yeah, so you'd buy a crystal and you'd wind copper wire around a toilet paper roll and hook it up to a set of earphones, and you had yourself a crystal radio.
We're all learning stuff today. See, Steve Smith is actually handsome and handy, folks. That handy thing is.
Well, I don't know what the heck. Yeah,
sorry.
I actually am. Anyway, yeah. Here, every show, all the dramas, all the comedies, even the variety shows, were on the radio. So I'd be listening. I remember there was one show called Our Miss Brooks, and it was a sitcom on the radio, and I would listen to that. And I'm like 9-10 years old, and all of the sets and the characters and everything are in my head. I can see them. And maybe 5 years later, now we got a TV, and they bring out Our Miss Brooks as a TV sitcom. And I'm sitting there going, no, that's not what he looks like. That's not the classroom. Everything, they'd taken away my imagination. So ever since then, I've always said one day I want to get back to doing radio where there's no bars, there's no limit. It doesn't matter. You don't need a lot of money because it's all just sound. You're just making sounds. And not only that, you stimulate kids' imagination. I feel I have a really good imagination. And I think a lot of the reason I have it is because of being subjected to radio, where I had to make an effort. I had to create the pictures. If everything's handed to you, you don't do anything.
I agree 100%. I think back in those, and it's the reason why I still sometimes enjoy reading a book rather than seeing the movie, because your imagination, the sky's the limit as far as, writing. Exactly. I love that you just shared that you were basically a 10-year-old critic, and you had such a valid point even at that young age.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So here's a question for you. So I imagine you're funny, you've been funny since you were 4. So do you crack Morag up at home all day long?
She still laughs. We've been married 54 years, and she still laughs. Yeah.
That's incredible. Do you have any advice for the people out there on a 50-year marriage?
Just don't pay any attention. That's the
Men at home, don't listen to that. And so I just want to let everybody know that the podcast, the Possum Lodge podcast, as well as any kind of Red Green merchandise that you want, you can get the Red Green series in its entirety on www.redgreen.com, and it's a really inclusive website. It's really well done. You can find anything Red Green that you're looking for there, including the Possum Lodge podcast. So where did the idea come for that style of podcast, Steve?
Well, I guess based on my past, I wanted to do a radio show, not a talk show on the radio. And I know most podcasts are just you keep talking till you think of something, but I just wanted to do a throwback show, and I wanted it to be different. There's a lot of things that are different about this podcast. First of all, it's totally 100% scripted, and we did 12 of them, and I think number 9 airs at the end of February, or drops or streams or whatever word they use for that. So by the end of June, we have to decide whether or not we're going to do more. It's just so much fun. I mean, it's leaning that way. The other thing is another big difference aside from the scripting. Well, and I think we have 17 characters on the show, so it's a lot going on. Also, we don't have sponsors or advertisers, and it wasn't always just their choice. We're totally subscription based. You can get in for $1. It's $1 a month. That's the entry level. My feeling was everybody can afford $1, and if what we're doing isn't worth $1, we probably shouldn't be doing it.
Right. $1, and you can be a lodge member.
Yeah.
and the show comes on the last Sunday of the month at 9 p.m.
9 p.m. Yeah, but once it's up there, it's there for the month. So.
Great. And so how have you been? You're in Florida right now. Steve's in Florida. He's taken time out of his holiday in the sun to be with us today, which I really appreciate. So how have you been coping just with, was the podcast, did that come out of the situation of the COVID? Was it a means for you, to sort of stay busy and stay working, or was it something that you probably would have done anyway?
Yeah, it had nothing to do with COVID. For the last 10 years, I've been touring. I've been doing North American one-man show tours as Red Green. I've done 4 of them. And in 2019, how's this for timing? I did my final tour. I called it "This Could Be It." My plan was if I decided to do another one, I would have called it "This Is Definitely It." But
and then you could do a third one called "Okay, This Is So Totally It," people.
But the "This Could Be It" tour in 2019 was so satisfying in every way. It was like 90% of the shows sold out. The fans were fantastic, and it just felt like I've always prided myself on knowing when to stop something, and it just felt like I should stop doing that. And so I told the promoter, I'm not touring anymore. We're done. And then the COVID thing hit. It's just so that was a pretty good time. I'm glad I wasn't touring last year. It would have been a disaster.
Right. And you were in Lethbridge in September of 2019. You came to Lethbridge here to the NMAX, and I think you kind of just answered my question. But what I was wondering is, with your "This Is It, This Could Be It" tour, it's one thing to kind of decide that, to decide on your own that this is going to be the last tour, but then when COVID hits and it's kind of taken from you the option.
Yeah.
Does it kind of shift in your mind now that it's just been taken to maybe you might want to do one more tour if this insanity ends?
No.
So that was really it.
Well, it was like when we did 15 seasons with the TV show, and I stopped it. I decided to end it because what was starting to creep in is that ideas that I rejected in season 4 started looking good to me. So I thought, yeah, that's a pretty good sign that, it's time to do something new. And I really felt with the touring, I had a chance to say everything I wanted to say. All I could do now was maybe do the whole tour in French. There's no point. It's time to pack that in and move on to something else. I'm a person, I always like looking forward. Even at my age, I'm looking forward to the next thing that I'm doing. I'm not good at looking back. It doesn't mean I have any regrets or resentment over what was in the past. It's just I'm more focused on the future.
And of course, but the past is what brought you to the place you're in now. And so I agree. Our eyes are on the front of our head for a reason, and that's so we look forward.
I like that.
And so what are we looking forward to? Like, what are your thoughts for the future?
Well, I'm certainly I'm gonna do the podcast as long as it's fun. The day I get up and it's not fun, I'm not doing it anymore. Or if the fans don't want to support it, there'll be no hard feelings from me. I mean, we're 30 years into this. I have nothing but gratitude. So
I can't see the fans getting tired. I can't see that happening. I really can't see that happening. I'm looking at some of the comments that I'm getting in here from my viewers, and someone comments, Ian Wright comments, radio is like reading a book, which is exactly what we were just talking about. Yeah. Smith and Smith was great. Steve Smith looks like Fred Penner.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've heard that before. The other thing is, I've got an engineer friend. He and I have invented a device for relocating Canada geese. So I know. So I'm working on that. I'm marketing that. So that's fun. That's exciting.
Is there duct tape involved in that?
No, goose
Shenanigan? So just a second here, I want to get back to that. So Red Green, I guess it's safe to call him an alter ego.
Yeah.
I think that's accurate. So where did the idea come for Red Green? Did you know somebody that was Red Green-esque, or was it a character you just thought of in your head? Like, how does the whole Red Green persona come to fruition?
Okay, well, first of all, it started out on the Smith and Smith show, which you mentioned. I used to do these little 1 or 2 minute bits. Like you talked about the preacher thing. I had a few characters, Jim Bob. And anyway, I was looking to add a new character. This is 1978. That's a long time ago. And there was a guy had a fishing show in Ontario, and it probably was on in Lethbridge as well. And it was the Red Fisher Show. And it was a bizarre program. He'd have episodes where he didn't catch anything. And he wrote his own poetry. And I remember running into his son years later, and I said, your dad, I used to watch his show, and he wouldn't catch anything. And his son said, well, he got you to watch for the whole half hour, so he caught something.
He caught a sucker.
Yeah. So he had that droll, slow way of talking. And so I was just really making fun of him. That's why the first name's Red, because and then I thought, well, the dumbest last name would be Green. And then it turned out every stoplight is a promo. So that all worked out. And it's supposed to be a 1 or 2 minute thing. And I did it once, and the whole crew was laughing, and fan mail started coming in. And I remember in the early 80s, the station, I'm in Hamilton, and the station there was running the Wednesday night hockey games, and they never knew when the hockey game was going to finish. It might finish at 20 to 11, might finish at quarter, and they needed something to bridge the gap to get them to 11 o'clock. So they asked me if I would do Red Green, just sit there and talk and I turned it down. I thought, well, that'd kill the character in a heartbeat, but it planted a seed in my mind that there's something there that they would make that offer to me. There's something going on.
Oh, he's relatable. He's just so relatable, and I think that's why people love him. And I think the fact that you stayed in Canada, to me, you're so Canadian, and I think that's what people love about you. We kind of feel like you're ours. You're our Steve Smith. You're our Red Green, and so do you think Red Green is something that will continue on until you decide not to do it anymore? Like, will he always be with us?
I wouldn't have said this 20 years ago, but when I did my tour even in 2019, there'd be 10-year-old kids who'd come up and tell me how much they liked the show. And I said to them, you know what? When I stopped doing the show, you weren't alive. And when I started doing the show, your dad wasn't alive. So, talk about evergreen, part of it is we never talked about what was going on. There aren't any Clinton jokes in there or anything. So
Right.
I don't see a reason, unless somebody comes along and does exactly the same thing better, which is certainly doable. I just see it sitting in its own little niche.
100%. And so what is it that we can look for? I'm just trying to figure, what is it that we can look forward to? I know the podcast is really, really huge. The Possum Lodge podcast. Do you see yourself doing another TV show?
No, I'm done with TV. I'm done with books. I've done all this stuff. I even did a feature film, and they're all in my resume. I don't want to relive my resume. That's what reincarnation is for. I don't want to have to die to do it. So I'd rather do something. I don't know. Like 5 years ago, I would not have mentioned a podcast in answer to this question. So I don't know what the future holds. But right now, I would like, if I could do the podcast, like I said, either for another few years or until it's not fun, whichever one comes first. That would be fantastic.
And it's a great platform for people, how you can just reach people universally, and And yeah, the podcast is a great idea. And so, what is it that you watch on TV? What does Steve Smith watch?
Well, not a lot. I mean, I honestly, I watch mainly sports. I don't watch that much comedy on. And I know it's really weird. I don't watch that much comedy on TV because it just, I don't know, doesn't. It's not aimed for me. I'm not the target market, and it's obvious.
It goes back to that filthy humor again, I think. Hey.
Well, when I was a kid, like we had, Milton Berle and Jackie Gleason and Jack Benny, and it's just like that's what's ingrained in me. That's genetic to me now. And it's just silly humor. I remember there was a guy on, a really old stand-up comedian, Leonard Box was the guy's name. He'd get up on, he'd come out, he could barely walk. He'd walk out on stage. He looked like had one foot in the grave, and he'd say a joke. He'd say a joke, and they'd laugh, and he'd say, "You're a wonderful audience. I wish I had a better act." I
Just self-deprecating humor.
yeah, I love that. You don't expect them to say that. That's the kind of stuff that I enjoy.
And I really miss the physical comedy.
Yeah,
Back in the older community, they were so physical.
absolutely,
John Rickles and people like that. They were so, they had to have so much talent to do that.
absolutely.
It wasn't just about standing up and telling jokes. Like, they were acting and telling their jokes at the same time. And yeah, so well, I'm going to tell everybody once again, make sure you do check out www.redgreen.com. For all things Red Green, you become a lodge member and join the Possum Lodge podcast there. That's the last Sunday of every month at 9 p.m. You can get merchandise. You can access Red Green episodes. And, Steve, I can't tell you what a pleasure it's been to talk with you today. And I know my viewers were really, really excited about this. And the comments that are coming in are awesome. So thank you for taking time out of your Florida holiday. I have a favor to ask of you before we go.
What's
You
that?
have to leave us with one of your Red Green isms.
Well,
Handsome.
if the women don't find you
We just need
handsome,
to hear it.
if the women don't find you handsome, they should at least find you handy. And if they don't find you either, they'll stop looking.
I love it. Thank you so much, Steve, for joining us today. I really can't thank you enough. How much fun this has been. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And have a great week. We'll see you next Sunday. Until then, stay safe and sane. Take care. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Kelly.